school principals of Reddit. What's the craziest thing a kid has ended up in your office for? My dad's a school principal at an elementary school. One day while I was home sitting at the computer playing WoW, he comes holding something behind his back and says, "Guess what I confiscated from a student today?" I had no idea. Suddenly he raises it to the sky like a magic wand. It was a corn cob of considerable size. You know, the ones that are anatomically correct. It was veiny, about 10 inches long, and much thicker than a real dong. It was neon orange and came complete with a suction cup on the back of it. I said to him, "Well, I understand that a student had it, but why the heck do you have it now?" Apparently after calling the mother of the student, she was so embarrassed, she didn't want it back. So my father decided to have a laugh with it. He bought a wooden plaque and gold spray paint. Spray painted the dong gold and affixed it to the plaque like one might do with a trophy. Buck said he presented it as a gag gift for a colleague's retirement party. TLDR. My dad's a principal. Took a corn cob from an elementary school student, spray painted it gold and gave it to a friend as a joke. Hope he sterilized it first. Student caught texting in class. Teacher gives final warning. Caught again but denies ever having it out. Teacher walks to student demanding phone or student will be sent to principal's office. Pulls out phone and knife. Student no longer attends that school. SR Machete by name. SR Machete by nature. I had a kid in one of my classes senior year that was pretty oblivious to everything around him. Last few weeks of school he sits down in class like any other day, except today he's carrying an empty coffee mug. He puts the mug down on his desk and pulls out a can of beer, cracks the beer and pours it into the mug while the teacher stares on in disbelief. The teacher says, "You've got to be crapping me. You know you can't do that, right?" Student responds, "Oh, I thought you'd be cool with it. You should go to the principal's office now for a little conversation." The kid is now a legend, albeit an unemployed legend. TLDR. Turns out drinking beer from a mug isn't okay in high school. Principal here. Larry was brought to my office by an irate teacher because he not only wouldn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, he was making fart noises during the pledge. This was a 12-year-old 7th grader. As we talked, I told him he didn't have to stand up, but he did need to be quiet. He informed me that he did not believe in the indoctrination and would resist. He and his family were a pain. So even though I didn't want to, I told him I'd need to call his mom. He then informed me that it wasn't his mother I'd be calling because he was the bastard child of Eva Braun and Adolf Hitler. I called mom anyway and he began screaming, "That's not my mom." She demanded to talk to him, so I handed him the phone. He informed his mother he was not her child. He was the bastard child of Eva Braun and Adolf Hitler. I could hear her begin to scream at him over the phone as he screamed at her, "You're not my mom." He finally gave me the phone back, and after the mom yelled at me for a while, she agreed to come and get him. She was not happy when she picked him up and was even less so as she pulled him out of the building as he screamed "Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil!" He was later sent to juvenile detention, where I read in the paper he attempted to incite other residents to riot over food choices. You can't make this up. I'm not a principal, however my son was sent to the principal's office for drawing his dong on 2 sheets of loose leaf paper. It was so hard to keep a straight face when I had to go to the office to talk about the incident. Apparently he was on the school bus and decided to draw it there. Even worse was when the principal called me to tell me about the penis drawing. I was at work and almost fell out of my chair. LOL. I once got sent down to the principal's office for having binoculars in class. My teacher sent me down for birdwatching while in class. My principal didn't even know what they were for and I had to explain them to him. How does anyone not know what binoculars are? That really seems like it would be common knowledge from even a young age. In kindergarten I turned the lights off in our gym during indoor recess. Got sent straight to the boss dog for that one. I was quite the heck raiser. You're freaking psychopath and have no place in civilized society. I was the kid. I was taken to the vice principal's office for reading too much and subsequently banned from the school library. Explanatory detail. I hadn't done much homework that year, but I had read most of the fiction section of the library. The idea was to stop me reading for 2 hours after school every day and then going home. The main consequence of being banned from the library was that I hung out in the computer lab instead. Go ahead and guess how that turned out. So you were that kid. That would be my dad. He took a whole bunch of Cliff Bars, or like Cliff Bars, that were in his locker and decided to roll them up into little turds and leave them all over the school, in corners, in the cafeteria, under desks, etc. The school ended up closing as the janitor suspected a rat infestation after multiple students reported their findings. The next day, he admitted to his friends what he did and everyone thought it was funny. Word got around and he ended up in the principal's office. Weirdo. Reminds me of the time I put a Cliff Bar in the urinal after rolling it up to look like a nutty turd. Everybody knew it was there, but not that I did it. By the end of the day, it was hilarious. Teacher here. My first year of teaching, I had a student punch out the window of my door for no reason. I was teaching, and he got up, punched my window out and fled campus. I never saw him after that. He was obviously challenging your authority. You should have walked over to the door and karate kicked it off its hinges. I'm interning as a principal right now, since I'm finishing up my licensure program. I teach English most of the day and spend about 2 hours in the office doing B work and basic discipline. One day, my principal gives me the most unique disciplinary assignment I've had to date. This kid, who we'll call Zed, walked into his chemistry class in a tuxedo, pulled out a dinner plate, a candlestick and candle, cutlery, and one of those 5-pound gummy worms. He proceeded to light the candle in the candlestick, throw the gummy worm down on the plate, and eat as if there was nothing unusual about it. I was dumbfounded and just gave the kid a warning for having food in the classroom. To be honest, that was the only rule he really broke. Candles in the chemistry room, maybe, and he's a great kid otherwise. I expect big things out of him once he graduates. Having glitter on my face. Parents were called. It was a strict Catholic school. I didn't know you went to Catholic school, Kesha. Fellow male teacher of mine recently sent a girl to the office for recording a fight on her cell phone. Principal found dozens of pictures of said teacher's butt on the girl's phone. We all shared a good laugh about it. My father is a principal superintendent for a small school district in Northern California, less than 100 students K-12. This is his first year at this school and his first week on the job. Last fall he had to expel a 7th grade girl for giving out joints at lunch. The way he told it to me is that she was not even hiding what she was doing and was surprised that it was a big deal. Now is a good time to mention that part, both legal and illegal, is the primary economy for this community. He has over 40 years in the education system and to him this was his biggest. The times they are changing moments. I am not entirely sure where the parents live. I am on the East Coast. They are in an unincorporated area and no real town. They are leading edge baby boomers and are open-minded but straight-laced. They have been in Northern Cali for 10 plus years now and are used to pot culture as an underground reality. They are surprised by above ground openness and laissez-faire attitude. So one day a kid skipped class and went off campus for a cigarette. He didn't sign out. He was immediately expelled and banned from campus. He was halfway through his senior year so they let him graduate with the program. Anyway, so a few months later, a kid went into a bathroom and smoked a bowl. The entire building reeked because of the venting system. Want to know his punishment? Nothing. Literally. He didn't lose any privileges. His parents came in and talked to the headmaster with the kid and that's all that happened. My English teacher even made a joke about it, saying, "So can I just do lines during class?" Got sent to the office once for putting silver nitrate on all the girls' toilet seats, staining a ton of girls' butts black. For them it was the worst day of the school year. For me it was Tuesday. Not my story, but a sub who was a former principal told me this one. So a kid had a long-term substitute because his teacher had to leave for health reasons. The sub was an elderly lady who would put on a movie on the VHS player every day, then sit in the back and knit. The kid hatches a brilliant plan. The movie they have been watching is on a series of 2 VHS tapes. He swipes the second one and takes it home. This genius breaks into his dad's pee stash and records part of a porno about halfway into the second VHS. He then brings it back to the school, where the sub was none the wiser. Keep in mind this was back when pee wasn't readily available to kids. Most didn't get to see it at all, so it really came as a shock to when in the middle of Spartacus, a scene popped up of a huge black dude balls deep in a blonde chick. Chaos ensues. Girls start screaming. The guys are all laughing. and the poor old substitute is waddling up the aisle only to find she has no clue how to do anything except hit play. By the time another teacher gets to the room, the entire porno has been played through and through. Kid got suspended if I remember correctly, but our sub told us he regretted doing so. In the back of his mind he said the prank was pretty hilarious. TLDR. Kid swipes movie being played in class and dubs pee onto it. All through school there has been this one guy, who we all call Smeagol. I liked my spelling better, like Gollum, and this kid has been obsessed with me, constantly trying to get my attention and everything. So in 10th grade we are on a band choir trip in Chicago, 10 hours from home, and we're on the viewing platforms at the Sears Tower. I'm deathly afraid of heights. It took my friends a good half hour to get me to go on it. I slowly edge on, and what does this douche do? Pushes me down onto the clear floored platform. Well, it's more like a box, so I fall onto the floor of it and look straight down to the ground, a 100 or so stories below. I immediately get up and punch him square in the nose. I had never hit anyone before in my life. He starts bawling. My teacher Skypes the principal, and he says, "Did you break his nose?" "No, I don't think so." Well, he had it coming. As long as he won't be permanently damaged, I'll let it go. I'm not Supergirl. As someone who is afraid of heights, frick that kid so goddamn much. I'm the student in this case. I need to preface this by saying that I've always been a, well, larger chested girl. I had a math teacher my freshman year of high school, who was basically flat chested, who would tell me I was inappropriately dressed every single day, when I would be wearing something like a tank top or a v-neck t-shirt. There was one day where I was even wearing the same shirt as another girl and only I got reprimanded. One day she tells me to pull my shirt up and I tell her no, so she sent me to the office. When I get there, the teacher asked me if I changed my shirt on the way over there. I said no, and he called the teacher confirming that it was the same shirt. After hanging up with her, he just shook his head and told me to go back to class. TLDR. My teacher was jealous of my tea. Sigh. Our principal was a hardus. Before I start, I should mention this was a small school, less than 100 kids. Sophomore year, a girl got a 3-day suspension for something she posted on MySpace. It wasn't offensive or vulgar, he just didn't like it. We later found out he was keeping tabs on several people's MySpace pages. Creepy stalker is creepy. She was back a day early because the rest of the staff sat him down to explain that it wasn't appropriate for him to stalk us. Pretty sure the only reason he didn't get fired is because he hadn't been there more than a couple months. Senior year, I got in a car accident while I was out for lunch. Wasn't my fault. Other guy ran a light. I had to stick around for a while the cops sorted everything out and my car got towed. I show up back at school, having already called to explain the situation, and jackass principal is waiting there for me, and basically starts yelling in the middle of the hall for me to come into his office. He then spent 20 minutes berating me for dangerous behavior and making the school look bad, apparently because I was wearing a jacket with the school's name on it. Lots of people got in trouble for coming back from lunch late on more than one occasion, so he decided that applied as well. So I got to stay after to help him clean, which thankfully my dad got me out of when he came to pick me up. He taught a geography class junior year, which unfortunately, I was a part of. There were like 10 people in the class, and he spent half of every class complaining that we weren't trying hard enough. Pretty sure no one scored less than a 95 on anything from that class. Same geography class. We had the gay kid and the black kid sitting at a table working on something. Suddenly, black kid screams and runs out of the room. Turns out, gay kid had tried to reach down his pants. Only one person ended up in the principal's office for that one, and it's not who you'd expect. It was the black kid. Apparently leaving class is worse than getting felt up by another dude. I TA'd for a guitar class senior year. Anyway, one day toward the end of the year, the teacher wasn't going to make it. We all knew this. Other teachers knew it. Even jackass principal knew. The teacher had left me a vague overview of what he wanted us to do, and I wasn't an incapable guitarist, so it wasn't that much of a stretch for me to just teach the class for a day. About 10 minutes into the class, jackass principal comes storming into the room, pee off at how much noise we were making. It's not like this was a new thing. The class had been going on for months. 15 people ended up in detention that day, and the next class, our teacher was confused as to why we were all playing so quietly. Please tell me this butthole was fired. I got called into the principal's office one day for recording a fight between two students. These kids were trying to start a fight club, and honestly they handled it very well. So I recorded the arranged fight, and as soon as it ended and I hit the button on my phone to stop recording, a teacher walked by and grabbed my phone. Now this was the iPhone 3G and it had just come out and they hadn't been able to record video natively, but I was jailbroken and was using Psycorder at the time. So the VP calls me into her office a few hours later and proceeded to only ask me about my phone. She had been searching for hours for Psycorder on the App Store and was asking how I changed the look and preferences of my phone, and how I locked certain apps. To which I asked why she was trying to get into my settings and messages. It ended up with us hanging out for the final period of the day, and when the final bell rang she just said, "Oh, don't record any more fights, okay?" and she called me out of class a week later to walk her through the jailbreak process. As another Redditor once said, always try to make friends with IT department. Teacher had a long scarf type thing on to go with her outfit. My friend was talking to his girl about a math problem. She walks over and lays a referral on his desk and says go to the office. He looks at her and says, "I was discussing a freaking math problem with her because you freaking suck at teaching." He gets up, walks to the trash can next to the door, drops his referral in the trash, and field goal kicks that bee clear down the hall. He turns and says, "Oh, by the way, that scarf looks like a freaking shower curtain." He got a nice little vacation. A freshman pooped in front of everyone in the locker room. My mother worked as middle school assistant principal for a few years, and as such she got to handle all the disciplinary problems. My family got to hear some great stories, but one in particular stands out. So the cafeteria had ice cream for dessert that day. The kitchen staff left the scoops to be cleaned in a big barrel of wastewater until it's time for cleaning dishes. This water is disgusting as heck, dirty, clouded, filled with bits of various ice creams. A group of boys who had sneaked out found it behind the kitchens, and, not knowing what it was, dared each other to drink it. Obviously, this resulted in bad stomach aches. Once the nurse determined that it was nothing serious, they were called into the office for discipline. Leaving the cafeteria was expressly forbidden during lunch, except for bathroom trips, and they had technically stolen from the kitchens, though she decided that drinking that stuff was its own punishment. Parents were called, and most of the kids wound up going home for the day. My mother laughed about one parent though, who, when called, replied that if her son was stupid enough to do something like that, he could suffer through his classes regardless. TLDR, drinking strange, foul-looking liquids you find behind the kitchens is not a wise decision, and may lead to your own parents calling you an idiot. I was the TAFE for my history teacher junior year in HS. My history teacher sent me to deliver a note to the choir teacher. As I arrived in the choir class, I don't see the teacher anywhere, however all of his students are in their seats. It was stadium type seats and I was on the stage looking for the teacher. One of my good friends was in the class and she jokingly says, "EWW, it's Harvey Walter Orion," to which I reply, "Suck my dong," as I thrust my hips forward and cross my hands in front of my junk. I was expecting a good laugh but instead was met with pure silence and oh crap faces. The next sound I hear is the choir teacher who just entered the class behind me asking, "What did you just say?" He sent me right to the principal's office. I tried to explain it away as a rooster joke between friends, but that didn't fly at all. He made me return to the class and apologize and then gave detention. I'm sorry, grabs megaphone. What I said was suck my dong, Mr. Garrison. Before building a room for study hall, they had study hall in the MPR, multipurpose room, and I had study hall just before a lunch. My friends and I were clowning around and I asked a passing classmate if she happened to have a tampon and she did and gave it to me. When the bell rang and the first lunch group made its way to the lines, we dunked it in fruit punch, then launched it by the string into a mass of people. I ended up smacking someone with it and for like 30 seconds there was a panic of OMG, is that real? The dean of students saw me and made me sit in the ISS room and I had to eat my lunch there, and then I got a Wednesday school, which was just extra long detention. Not principal, but teacher. Crazy can have a number of meanings. I guess the worst one was to tell them their mother had committed suicide. Not fun like many of these, but certainly felt pretty crazy. 20 years educator and assistant principal. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. A boy peeing into a water bottle in the middle of class. Menstrual blood smeared across a chair. Surveillance video of 13-year-olds giving head. And fingers crushed in a heavy metal fence. Flesh torn to the bone. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. I too love Blade Runner. Not a principal, but it was my day to bring something in for kindergarten show and tell. The only stipulation being that it start with the letter N. Evidently bringing my toy Nerf gun was a big no-no. Of course, I should mention that it was a fairly small one and had no darts. My parents were called and had to come pick me up. They still think the whole situation was handled ridiculously. Which it was. Another student here, in like 10th grade. I was walking down the hall in my school, coming back from lunch, and I was talking to a girl I was interested in. Somehow, our conversation shifted to an apple I had brought from the cafeteria. Being a clown, I ended up lobbing it into a crowd of people. I ended up hitting a senior with an anger issue. What preceded was a hulking 18-year-old who didn't seem to like getting pegged by apples charging at me, looking to beat the crap out of me. A teacher intervened and he and I were both escorted to the principal's office and had to do 40 hours of community service together. And then, through a wacky series of accidents and misunderstanding, you two learned the true meaning of friendship, that you weren't very different from one another, and he hooked you up with the girl because you were the first person to actually listen to his problems. I was in the 5th grade, 11 years old, and decided to flash everyone that rode my bus multiple times. I have no idea why I did this. People ask me to this day and I still do not know why. Of course, I was the talk of the school and the principal called me into her office within the next couple of days. I was suspended and whatnot. I don't remember my parents punishing me though. You can pretend you're still on the bus and flash me. At the school where my mom teaches, which will remain nameless, there have been at least 2 injuries this year which resulted in hospitalization. They were both due to student-on-teacher violence. A student slammed a door on a teacher's head, causing a concussion and necessitating a trip to the ER. The student's aunt caregiver blamed the teacher, saying you must have done something to make him mad. Another student grappled with a teacher, causing injury to the teacher's knee severe enough to require surgery. Surprise, surprise, the school is a center for kids who were kicked out of other schools. It is an elementary school. My mom has taught for 30 years and acted as principal of that school on occasion, subbed for the principal, and has many stories. The one that stands out to me the most is this one. The mother of a student is in the principal's office filling out emergency contact forms. Apparently, the mother had several children by different fathers and couldn't immediately remember the father of that particular child. The mother, completely serious, turns to her kid and says, "Who be yo daddy?" Surprise, surprise, the school is a center for kids who were kicked out of other schools. No surprise there, it is an elementary school, dude. I'm not a principal, but I'm the student in this story. For my 13th birthday when I was in 8th grade, I had a few of my friends over for a sleepover. We were really into prank phone calling people then, so we would go through the phone book and call up random stores and say stupid crap. So we're sitting around prank calling people, and one of my friends at the time mentions that she has our gym teacher's phone number since she was the tennis coach and my friend was on the team. Of course, we thought this would be the ultimate prank call and my other friend dialed the number. I don't remember what was said, I just remember I didn't say anything and my 2 friends spoke. That Monday, we were called into the principal's office because my friend had forgotten to block her number and our teacher knew who it was. My 2 friends got a week of lunch detention and 2 days of in-school detention. I wasn't punished at all, but felt bad since I encouraged the idea. Like an butthole, I went back to the principal and told him that I really felt bad and I should be punished too, not just my friends. He started screaming at me and asked why I was questioning his judgment, and proceeded to ask me if I wanted to be punished even more now. I said no, and noped the frick out of his office. TLDR, don't prank call your teachers. I was the student. In 3rd grade I wrote this kid a note that said, "I hope you jump off a bridge and die. F you. My name." He was my crush, and he picked another girl to be his partner in music class. I was very upset, and the other girl turned in my incriminating note. I tried for the entire visit to the office to convince the principal that FU meant for you. I apparently didn't think the first bit was important. I got suspended. My parents and the principal thought I was a lying idiot. I was. Also, I'm not mentally disturbed, so that's a plus. Totally justified. This is 3rd grade music class we're talking about here. Newly minted as principal here. Had a girl fill a boy's backpack with peanut butter. Yep, he was allergic to peanut butter. The better part of my AP English class was called down to the office once. Our crime? We couldn't get into our classroom. The teacher next door let us come into her room and wait for our teacher to show up. After a while, about half an hour, she said, "If you've got another class you can go to work on a project. You can go." Yes, our school was mostly nerds. Magnet program. Just write it down on the board so we can find you. We did, and moved on with our day. We were a little surprised to end up in the AP's office. Some of us wasted more time in the office than we did by missing class in the first place. In 7th grade, 2 girls got into a fight outside my music class, so a big circle formed around to watch it. I was a little late, so in order to get a view, I was behind a circle of people jumping up and down trying to see the fight. Well, next thing I know, principal grabs me, says go to my office now, as he and teachers break up the fight. I had to call my parents and ended up with a 2-day in school suspension for supporting a fight or something like that. Yeah, that was BS. Depends on the student code of conduct. Should have asked to see the part of the student code of conduct where it specified that no student was supposed to support fights. My dad's friend in high school was in and out of the principal's office quite a bit. Well, one time right before he goes in, he lights a cigarette and gets going real good. About halfway through he put the wick of an M80 in the side and set it in the drinking fountain. He goes in the office and after a couple of minutes it blows up. The principal looked around and said, "Looks like we can't blame this one on you." When I was a student in 8th grade, I had a PE class with a bunch of my friends. One day my friends decided rolling quarters to each other across the classroom while my teacher was talking would be a funny idea. I was in no way involved with this and was merely a spectator. My teacher caught on to what was going on and immediately said that if someone doesn't confess to rolling the quarters that she would send me to the office. WTF. My teacher didn't even think I was a part of what was going on. So I got sent to the office because of course my butthole buddies didn't want to man up. When I got to the dean's room he sighed and said, "Just go back to class, there's nothing I can do about it." In middle school, I received lunch detention for reading in English class. I wasn't paying attention to lesson and was reading some novel I brought from home. I was sent to the lunch detention room. English was right before lunch, and I asked what I could do during detention. The teacher who watched over lunch detention said I could either work on homework or read a book. So, I went back to reading my book. My English teacher, who honestly was pretty nice, I guess she had it that day, later asks the detention teacher what I did in detention. She says I was very well behaved for a kid in detention, and that I just read my book. Needless to say, she got pretty mad. The principal, however, when the issue was brought to her, decided I didn't do anything wrong technically and that I was free to go. It's worth mentioning the school didn't put lunch detentions on your permanent record. TLDR. Read a book in English class. Got detention. Read book in detention. I was quite the mother. Math professor at a local community college was fired for being xenophobe. He was one of the best math teachers anyone had the privilege of learning from. He taught advanced algebra and was teaching kids about linear equations. The dialogue goes like this. "Professor, someone drops a watermelon off of a building that is 80 feet tall. How long does it take for the watermelon to splatter on the ground?" White student. "Well, who dropped the watermelon?" Professor. "I don't know." Condoleezza Rice. Classroom. Laughter. Next week professor is terminated because of the one black person and the room went to the dean and complained. His colleagues miss him and still say he was one of the best teachers around. I ended up in the principal's office for counterfeiting currency while in primary school. I discovered if I blue tacked two 5C pieces together heads out and then painted them with gold outline paint pens, they looked and felt like $2 coins. I got away with it for ages until I mentioned it and somebody dobbed me in. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.